For sure.
Welcome, Amy, to Keep What You Earn. I'm so excited to have you, especially because I know that exactly what my name is for the podcast is near and dear to your heart and your mission. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Yes, it speaks deeply to my soul. I am all about helping people keep what they earn. So we are a match made in heaven as far as that goes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I adore Amy. Amy is what I love about you specifically is that you're a financial professional. You've got multiple credentials, which we're going to talk about. You just heard in the introduction. But what makes you lean so far into, I guess, the non-traditional things that you would think a financial professional cares about, which is a lot more of the, mindset and belief structure around money. Tell us about how you became so passionate about that.
Oh my gosh, this is actually what I'm super passionate about. I can talk about the numbers. I can jam about some numbers all day long. But honestly, what I call the abundance formula is really like if you look at a pie chart of financial planning and financial wellness, like 20% of that is the numbers. 80% of that is the emotions and the decision making. And what I do is I talk to people who make money, who are amazing. And what I have found is they are unable to keep it. Why? And so in working through this with people, I'm trying to dive more into the mindset, into understanding like the energetics and flow and why people struggle to keep what they earn actually, because we all know how to be wealthy, spend less than you make and save. Why aren't we all there? And so it's cracking that code and helping people see their worth and know their worth. And I mean that literally and figuratively. That's what's important to me and where I feel like the difference is in what I do and how I help people.
And how would you describe, I guess, the ways that that can manifest itself? So when you say that, like, why aren't we doing that? What are we doing to sabotage ourselves right now when it comes to keeping more of what we earn? Because we all want to do that, right? We all have that shared common desire. What
Mhm.
is either holding us back, or what are we doing to ourselves to sabotage?
I think there's a variety of things that people are doing. First of all, I think we have to be careful with our language around money. People tend to speak in this scarcity mindset versus the abundance. And again, it goes back to attracting what it is that you're putting out there. I think it has to do with people not feeling worthy of keeping that money. I think it's the goes back to the belief structures of when we were children. I mean, so much of our money mindset is based on behavior that was modeled or spoken about in our home. And I think people adopt those as their own without really sitting down and giving them actual thought to see if that's truly their belief structure. Like the whole, rich people are greedy. Is that really the case? Can that be said to be true 100% of the time? And the answer is no. I believe wealthy people change the world. And so it's a matter of shifting that mindset and also recognizing that sometimes you have to do things that are more independent. You have to sort of put on your blinders and focus inward on what's important to you, what brings you joy. And then in looking at that, everyone says it's about keeping up with the Joneses. And I think as Americans, that's important, right? That people think that that's what they should do. We make more, we spend more, we make more, we spend more. And I'm trying to help people break that paradigm and recognize that the Joneses are in debt. We don't want to be the Joneses, right? And so it's really in looking at that belief structure that is often in childhood and beyond, and sort of cracking that code and understanding what really is important in your current adult life, what really matters to you, and leaning into that.
And I think that for a lot of folks, that struggle shows up when it comes to, and we were just talking about this before we hit record, was in pricing and quoting your services, where we always undercut ourselves or feel the sense of rejection if someone doesn't buy from us. And it just kind of keeps that spiral going. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. I think, again, it goes back to defining our worth outside of who we are and realizing, again, leaning into that scarcity. If I say no to this client, even though I know they're not paying me what I'm worth, then somehow I'm going to have less. versus recognizing the opportunity to say no here, because that's going to give you an opportunity to say yes to that right and perfect client. So it's really recognizing that our worth is not defined by someone's yes or no. Our worth is defined inherently by who we are, standing in our power, knowing that we're prepared, the services that we offer are important, and that we are in this heart-centered. I think that's super important as well. When you know in your heart that you're of the highest integrity, when you are educated and have the best, plans and ideas. And like you said, right, when you are able to think about your clients and how you can better serve them based on any amount of feedback that you get from the news or from something that you learn, when that is what you put first, then you can recognize that you can charge what you are worth based on what it is that you're offering, not who you are.
Love that. Absolutely love it. It's so true. It's so true. There's two, when we talk about building wealth, like you mentioned, there's, spend less, make more. It's just like losing weight. There's, burn calories and diet, right?
Yeah.
So there's a formula to it, and you can't have one without the other. It's just not healthy. You can't, you can outspend your own income generation. If you have horrible spending habits, that's always going to be there. So in talking about making more and pricing yourself appropriately, that's one side of the equation.
Absolutely.
But one thing that you're an advocate for is simplifying your finances, which I think is a gateway to managing that money that you do have. So talk about how can we simplify our money a bit and make it less overwhelming to try to manage and try to, address, because I know that we all kind of turn a blind eye sometimes.
I love this. I think simplicity is the key to actually success in a lot of areas in our life. I mean, we are pulled in so many different directions, whether you're a parent, whether you're working a corporate job, you're an entrepreneur, there's a million things that are calling for our attention. So we oftentimes sort of neglect the things that maybe are important, such as our finances. And so my advice to clients is to keep it simple. And what I mean by that is combining things into one place. If you leave a company, you don't need to leave your 401k there. Move that to an IRA. Like keeping things at single banks and single companies, and really so that you can log on to a handful of places and have your financial picture available to you. And I think it also comes, and this speaks to a much broader topic, but automating your savings, because that is, next to up leveling your mindset, to me, the number one way to grow your wealth. And you can do that in a variety of ways. Contributing to a 401k, whether that's corporate or as an entrepreneur, that's setting up automatic withdrawals. Like you get paid on a Friday, and then on Monday, money is coming out to go to, your vacation fund. It's going to your opportunity fund. It's going to your brokerage account, setting that up so that you don't have to think about it. Because inherently, if you're waiting until the end of the month to transfer what's left over, somehow we're energetically aligned to spend what's in our account, and there's oftentimes nothing left over. So to grow your wealth, simplify your life. Make it so you can see it all in a few places and start to automate that savings.
So yeah, and I was just going to say the number one thing is automation, right? Because if you are not proactive, I mean, not many people are, even myself included, by the way, I am one of these people who, if it is not automatically happening, it's very hard for me to remember to do all these different things that I have to do with my money. So automation is everything. Once you, obviously set it and don't quite forget it, but make sure that you're consistent, right? Automation breeds consistency. What can we automate when it comes to our money that will help us build good habits?
Ooh, so I think it goes strictly like starting. Obviously, your money is automatically being transferred into your bank account. Make sure that you are setting up your bill pays. Stop writing checks, stop having one at the biller account and one at your account. Like, make them consistent so that when it comes due, you're already on it and you don't have to think about that as well. Make sure that you're contributing to your company 401k. Set up a variety, and your banks offer the opportunity to have savings accounts with very minimal start balances that are free. Because I would also say, don't pay exorbitant fees for things that you can get for free in terms of accounts. But I also think setting up an account outside of your bank, sort of that is an online account, and having that be a nice emergency. And I don't like to use the word emergency because language is important. I like opportunity, but so that it makes it, you have a few days before you have that money transferred to you, because I want you to be thinking about it. If it's going to be a couple days to get there, I want you to really think, is this money that I need to move? Is this truly a time and a place where I need to tap into that opportunity fund? And I think it's important that you are, and I don't want it to be complicated, right? Because we're talking about simple, but I think it's important to sort of have buckets. As entrepreneurs, I want you to have an account for your tax, right? So that you're setting that aside. So, I mean, this speaks, I'm sure, deeply to your soul, so that you're not surprised at, at tax time, which often happens to our entrepreneurs. I want you to have that money that's set aside as just your cash safety net. It's just your emotional comfort zone, so that you make good decisions when something happens that you hadn't planned for. So having those things automatically done, and like you said, to speak to fix it and forget it. I mean, yes, I want you to fix it, and I don't want you to necessarily forget it, because at some point, those amounts that are automatically transferred, they're going to be comfortable, and you're going to realize that you're living comfortably, or you're going to make additional money. And what I want you to do is to, again, go and increase those balances. And to speak to that, you don't have to start with hundreds or thousands of dollars in those initial transfers. I started saving back, when I got my first job, and sometimes it was $25 to this account and 50 to that. As I've aged, as I've earned more, those amounts have increased. But if you haven't started doing this, start small, get comfortable with that, and then go in once a quarter, once you get a raise, if you have a bonus, and start increasing those amounts. You inherently get used to those numbers. You get comfortable, you learn to live on that difference, and then go increase them a little bit more. It's that game that we're playing with ourselves. And if you look at it like kind of fun, like a game, you're gaming yourself to saving for your future.
Totally. And I'll add a couple more automations to that I've started doing that I think are really helpful, and with clients. Number one is I have my clients try as much as possible to automate paying themselves. If they're not through payroll, we want to do a minimum transfer per month out of, as owners draws, out of their business account, so that they see cash flow and they see that they're getting paid. And then they can get raises when they increase the cash flow, because otherwise, as entrepreneurs, we don't know when to pay ourselves, and we don't know how much to pay ourselves. And it's stressful, because you're like, am I going to bleed the business account dry if I take this money out? Like, if I'm taking it, and will I get taxed on it differently? And what we try to do is say, this is what we're going to do per month. This is what's going to happen. But it adds a sense of calm and flow to it, because then there's actually an expectation of, well, this is when I get paid every month, and I know that. And when you have predictability, you have more calm, and that builds more of that confidence around the money. And the second thing I would say automate is your charitable giving.
Oh yeah, love that.
I actually am a subscriber to Pencils of Promise and a few other charities, where I give a certain amount per month, like $25 a month, and been doing it for a couple of years. And next thing you know, you're like, you've actually donated a pretty penny, but you don't have to wait until you're filthy rich to donate a bunch of money, because you just have to keep that consistency. I think consistency and time wins over, large quantities any given day.
Oh my gosh. Well, yes. And speaking, we'll transition to what's super important and near and dear to my heart is sitting in gratitude and the opportunities to give. So what I would say to that is, even when we're in positions when we feel like we aren't wealthy in our current life, I think we have to look around. I think we have to say, oh, we have a cell phone. Oh, we have clean water. There's a variety of things, and we have to have a gratitude practice. And it sounds so simple and so ridiculous, but how do you get yourself into the vibration of more? How do you get yourself there is by being grateful for what you have. And I think we underestimate the value of just in our mind, even on paper, just writing down a few things every day, talking to people and friends about it, like just having those conversations of what you sit in gratitude for. And I think the other thing that is critical for an abundance mindset is recognizing that no matter who you are, no matter what point in your life you're at, you have the opportunity to give back. And for those that say, oh, I'm struggling, in my financial life, fine. We all have time. We all have the opportunity to give a little bit of time to a particular charity. In addition to that, we all have some sort of talent, right? I'm the treasurer of everything with my children because that is the language that I speak. So I've been donating my time as treasurer for, almost 2 decades. So time, talent, and then after that, treasure. And at some point you get to where you're able to donate more. And I think it's important to, even when you don't have much, to give, and to give freely and without expectation, to give without any expectation of receiving anything in return. And I can assure you that you will start to get that abundance back in your world when you sit in gratitude and when you recognize the value of giving and giving freely.
And I think that when you consistently give, let's say we'll use treasure as the example, right? If you're giving your finances, you're giving your wealth, and you're also, automating, you're giving yourself, you're gifting yourself something for the future, your future self.
Yep.
And you're constantly in this position of feeling like you're giving, not spending. I'm giving this to my future self. I'm giving this to this person. I'm giving this to that person. There's a different attitude around money than when you feel like it's not that it's leaking. You are intentionally sharing it with no expectation necessarily, but knowing exactly what the intention is of that money and giving it purpose. And I think that's the differentiator when it comes to business, and why so many entrepreneurs struggle with, I'm not holding on to the money because it's leaving and it's running away. And so when you're giving it actively with a conscious decision, it's very different than when you feel like it just disappeared. And I'll add into the automation with, how we said, set it and forget it, or fix it and forget it. You set it and forget it to some extent, but what we do, this is the difference, is that with my clients, we do this, and personally, my husband and I, every quarter do a status of our money. So we make sure we know, okay, where did it go? Where is all of it right now? It's kind of like, that when I'm just picturing like a bunch of things running around, and then like you shine the light on it and everyone freezes. And it's okay, where is everybody? So
I get it. Yeah.
Where is everybody? What is the status of our money right now? And then that allows us to tweak the dials, right? To say, okay, savings is doing good. We don't have to contribute as much there. We can put more into retirement. What are we trying to do over the next couple of years? What are our goals, and how do we move in that direction? And the automation is so key, because I think you and I are from the generation of, if you wanted to save, you had to take your pocket change and put it into a thing, a jar. I had a giant bowling pin bank, like a giant bowling pin in our basement. I remember this. And it was, when that thing is too heavy to lift, then we can go, then you can go and cash it. You had no idea how much was in there. You had no idea what you put in there. And you only put money in there when you had the extra change.
Yeah.
And I think that actually permeates into a lot of us as adults going, I don't have anything to save because I don't have anything extra.
And to speak to that, I want to say, first of all, personal finance is self-care. And personal finance is a team sport, right? So I love that you and your husband take the opportunity. And I say that as far as romantic relationships, but business relationships, like you have to take the opportunity to have those money conversations. And I think the other thing, as it relates to paying yourself and speaking directly to that, even when you are in a position where you're starting out, or you're new in your business, or you're younger, like you, just by inherently saving $25 or $50 a month, it's showing that you are prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your future. And I think it's important to note that distinction. And as it relates to saying you feel like cash is leaking, and I don't like to use the word budget because that can really make people's like squinch. So I like to say a cash spending plan, because I think that allows you to take your power back. But if you create a cash spending plan, and for your business, for your personal life, and you are giving yourself that cash spending permission, if you're someone that likes an adventure, a vacation, then make sure that you have a fund that you're putting that in your cash spending plan. If you're someone that likes to get your nails done, great. Put that in your cash spending plan. Give yourself permission to spend. give your dollars direction so that you don't feel like it's losing or leaking, because you are purposefully aligning it to where you want it to go. And I think if you look at it from that mindset shift and start to say, I'm telling my money where to go. And then that's because I want to eat out a couple of days a week. I want to get my nails done. I want to have this gym membership. Great. And also really align with what brings you joy, not with what you see brings someone else joy. I'm not a
Oh,
person
yeah.
who really cares about a fancy car. That's not what brings me joy, but I love a trip. I love an adventure. So I'm going to put my dollars to that. But there's some people who are happy to just go to the beach every year, but want a fancy car, right? I'm someone that would rather eat in and get my nails done. And I'm not saying you have to make choices this small, right? But I'm just saying, if you start to look at it like, does this bring you joy, or is it just because it's convenient and you're mindlessly doing it? Look at the things that truly make you feel like wealthy, right? And then there's
Right.
other things that maybe you don't care about, and those help you make decisions that are going to make you feel wealthy later. So it's kind of looking at what makes you feel wealthy now versus what makes you feel wealthy later, and having a balance of those.
And it's not an either or either. There's not if I want to go get my nails done, I have to eat at home. There's
Correct.
this mentality of I must sacrifice to reap the benefit. I don't like that very much. I don't like the idea
Agreed.
that there's a trade-off. I do like the idea sometimes of a give and take, in the sense of earning the next thing. So if I want to treat myself, sometimes I discipline myself by saying, okay, Shan, next time you bring on a client, this is when we can invest in X, Y, Z, because there also is a balance of cash flow that we
Absolutely.
have to be conscious of. So if you got to make sure, though, that if you're going to go spend money, that you're wisely spending it based on your values. So you mentioned, like, this is what I like to do. And I try my best to connect spending to value. So I value convenience. That's my number one.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that I will gladly spend money on a cleaning lady, on, somebody driving me somewhere so I can work in the car and not lose that time. I just value my time a lot. So I will spend money on things that will open up more time for me and create convenience. I'll also spend money to be closer to, things I need to get to, like the coffee shops, the restaurants, I like being closer to things because that saves me time. So knowing that about myself, that's where my money goes, is things that can add to my time. And that's different for everybody.
Absolutely.
But it's really important to align with what are those things for you, and even making a list and going through what are my top priorities of where my money is going to go. And you can definitely, there's no shortage of ways to spend your money, but you've got to focus on those priorities, those goals. And this is why, like for clients, you don't know this about our business, but we start with 3 goals every year, 3 core goals that we have to anchor to. Every spending decision, every new investment, I go, how is that progressing towards one of these 3 goals? And if it isn't, is it bringing you joy, or is there another reason why we're spending it? But we always have to tie back to, is it going towards the goals? And it's about the intention, as you mentioned. It's giving your money purpose, not just spending it with the hopes that it's a good investment.
I love connecting your spending to your values. And that's not to say that what you want to spend money on is ever wrong. If it's again, right? Like if it's for convenience, if it's because, this, that, or the other, there's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of giving your money purpose, like you said, directing it in the areas that are important to you. And that's going to look completely different from person A to person B. That's fine, right? Stay in your lane and focus on what it is that is going to push you and your family forward, and like live and lean into that. And I love that you said aligning with your values, because I think that's absolutely crucial.
Because if you follow a cookie cutter thing, there are certain financial professionals, which I know you'll laugh because you know exactly who I'm talking about, that will say, you already know, that will say, you shouldn't eat out at restaurants if you're in debt. You shouldn't have any credit card debt. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. And it's that exact sentiment of why people get scared, because they're being told what not to do. They're being scolded for what they want to do. And that's not in alignment with their values. So personal finance is personal. Like you always, it's true. And it's all about, well, where do you want to go? If you're progressing in the direction you want to go in, no one can judge you for taking the road you're taking if that's on the way to the destination you're going to.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I think it's all about feeling balanced. And you can relate it back to crash diets don't work. Why? Because we feel deprived. Well, it's the same thing when you go to a beanies and weenies budget, right? Like cut it out, live a little, but give purpose to your money. Evaluate where you're spending. And if it's bringing you joy, if it's getting you further to your goals, to feeling in alignment with you, it's all going to work out. And I just think you have to be purposeful and not look at it as like the monster under the bed. When you sit there and you give so much in your mind to the stress of the what if and the unknowns. And when you turn the light on and look under the bed, it's really nothing scary, but it's the idea of doing so. And so I would really encourage people to acknowledge and honor and look at their numbers. And it doesn't have to be on a fancy computer software. It doesn't have to be on a spreadsheet. Get a damn notebook. Start writing down what's coming in, what's going out, and just give it some voice and stop burying your head in the sand and know that none of it's right or wrong. It's just data. It's just feedback to help you make a different decision going forward, whatever that may be.
And that can be super empowering because you could discover something in there that you didn't know. Like you could be paying for a subscription for a year that you never even use. And then next thing you know, you're chopping out $40 a month. And you're like, that felt good. Where else is there? Oh, there's another $20. Oh, there's another $20. And then and here's how you have to frame it. You just made yourself back over the course of a year. Let's say it was, $50 a month. That's $6,000.
$600. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. $600 to say 6,000. I'm thinking one more zero.
I know, but
if it was, right. If it's 500 a month, right. It's 500 a month, or if it's $50 a month or whatever it is, like, and trust me, you could find $500 a month if you really tried, and you could end up with $600 or $6,000 in savings, which is, then that money can go towards savings for retirement or whatever.
Yeah.
There's your Roth IRA contribution, by the way. And then
love that. Yes.
And then that's it. But it's not about sacrificing. Let me be very clear. It's not about sacrificing and trading off. It's about, where are you just spending money that you just have turned a blind eye to? And how can you redirect that and give it intention and purpose that hasn't been there before? That's what it's about. Not, I must take from this. I must cut my Starbucks coffee. I must budget. I hate those messages because if that's what you like, then you just have to build that into your spending plan. That's it.
I also like to talk to people about how can you make 20% more? Like, what steps can you take in your life? It's not always about cutting. Like, again, that goes back to scarcity versus abundance. How else can you make more money? Like, there's a million ways to monetize a side hustle, especially, now that we've seen the things that have gone down in the last couple of years. Like, you can be working your corporate job. You could be building your side hustle. You have a zone of genius. And people will pay to learn knowledge and information. Maybe you have a skill set that you can offer. And it's not to say work yourself to death, but I'm just saying there's a variety of ways to earn more, not always about cutting your spending.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's talk for a second we talk about savings, right? Mm-hmm. And I know one thing that's on a lot of entrepreneurs' minds is, we talked about a little bit. Number one, okay, how do I know when and how much to pay myself? Mm-hmm. And number two, how do I know when I'm ready to save for retirement? Because that seems like the next, I feel like as entrepreneurs, we start out in business where we just want to be profitable. We just want to float above water. We don't want to be drowning. Mm-hmm. Then we start floating, and then we start learning how to swim. And finally, when someone is doing, the breaststroke instead of treading water, right?
Yeah.
So now someone's actually moving forward. And that's usually when I get the question, okay, I'm making money. Like, objective met. I've unlocked this level of the game, right? Now I need the next boss in the game. is how do I now start paying my future self and my present self? So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are right at that cusp of, I'm ready to pay myself, I'm ready to start saving. Where the hell do I start?
Yeah. Well, I love this question. And I would say, don't forget to sort of pay yourself along the way to start building up, right? Like we talked about. But when you are truly ready and at a place in your business where you are thinking about not just sort of those immediate in the next year or two needs, but you're thinking more long term. So at a minimum, I say start looking at your Roth and traditional IRA contributions. Use those if you're eligible. But for those that are even a step further, I think individual 401ks for my solopreneurs are amazing. And oftentimes I say this to people who are entrepreneurs and they're like, mind blown. They have no idea it's available to them. Most people think when you're in a corporate world, that's when you have a 401k. And outside of that, you can't. Well, that's actually not true. I have tons of entrepreneurs who have solo 401k set up, and you have the same limits for saving as those in the corporate world, which in 2022 is 20,500 for 49 and under, an additional 6,500 for 50 and up. And that's an awesome way to reduce your taxable income and put money aside for your future. So that is important for, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but for my super high earners, I also, encourage them to talk about, a profit sharing on top of their 401k. There's a calculation for doing that. And then in addition to that, there are things called personal pension plans. We have lots of ER doctors. I have some online entrepreneurs who have kind of found the secret sauce, and we have them contributing not just to a 401k, but to their own profit sharing and then a personal pension plan. And these are, as a general rule, the US government wants to encourage entrepreneurship. That's how this country was built. And there are a lot, and as someone who, is deep in the tax world, there's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs to reduce their taxable income based on expenses, but even a step beyond that by saving for retirement and these very awesome vehicles, such as that 401k, pension plan, et cetera.
Yeah. And the fact that your company can also contribute to it. And here's the other thing too, that I think a lot of entrepreneurs get held up with is they see that number of, I can contribute up to $20,500. And they're thinking, I don't have $20,500. By the way, I don't think there's one single year where I've really maxed that out. I may have come close, but you don't have to max it out every year.
You don't have to. You could put 500, 5,000, 10,000. Any of it helps. Just start taking advantage of those pre-tax opportunities. And I think inherently putting it in a Roth, a traditional IRA, a 401k, it's the mindset that, well, I can't get to this until some point in my future. And as someone who's a financial advisor, I really love to educate people on the value of long-term investing, on the value of riding the emotional wave, of letting that money grow, of recognizing that, the stock market can be volatile, but over time, right? History has shown us that there's a lot of opportunity for earnings there. And having that mindset when it's in those retirement vehicles, that I'm not going to touch this.
Right.
Yes, there's a variety of ways to get to it. We don't need to get into those, but inherently the mindset should be, this is for my future. And we need different buckets of money, right? When we get to that retirement, we need the after-tax dollars. We need the, pre-tax retirement dollars. We need to have that cash safety net built up, and there should be opportunities for Social Security for people, right? There's a variety of buckets for that future that we're looking at, but don't just assume that Social Security is going to be enough, right? It was never intended to be enough. So we have to take personal responsibility and make sure that we're prioritizing our financial future. It's not anyone else's job to do that for us.
So true. It's so true. And and if you start early, time is on your side.
Oh my gosh.
always, we can run the math if we need to.
Time wants
We
to
won't do
give
it.
you money,
I
right?
know
Like
we
your
won't do
two
the math,
biggest,
but
your two biggest assets, your earning potential and time.
right.
Nothing brings me more joy than getting someone who's in their 20s to start contributing to their 401k, to start putting even just a few $1,000s away, because that money is going to grow for the next 40 years. It's going to give you time is going to give you so much additional income. Kind of a rule of thumb, I like to say, I mean, there's no guarantees. I always have to do my disclaimers,
Right.
but a rule of thumb is that your money doubles roughly every 10 years. So if you have $100,000 saved at 30, it's 200 at 40, it's 400 at 50, it's 800 at 60, right? Time is giving you $700,000 if you didn't contribute another dime past 30. So recognize that starting early, even if it's smaller amounts, those smaller amounts add up over time.
Yeah. And I was just going to say a smaller amount contributed earlier grows more than a larger amount contributed later. Time is better than the amount. And when people realize that, I mean, that the earlier you start, the better. And on a recent episode, I laid out, hiring your kids into your business, or you can hire a family friend, or, a kid that you want to support, right? You can hire them. And I said, put that money into their IRA, put that money into their savings. And even if you're paying them $25 a month or $50 a month or $1,000 a year, whatever it may be, whatever you're paying them, watch what happens. By the time they hit college, by the time they hit their wedding, that could pay for their wedding. In 30 years.
And even for those teenagers that maybe have just their job that's, outlet, whether it's at the grocery store or whatever their earned income is, you can consider putting up to that amount in a Roth IRA for them. That's what I've done for my kids, right? Like they earn their income, and whatever they earned, we just have them, put it into that amount into a Roth IRA. And that's starting at like 16 and 18. And that money isn't, it's like, oh, well, no, they can't get to it. I mean, they could, right? We don't need to get into that if there's emergency situations, but imagine just those like $2,500 growing for the next 50 years. In a Roth IRA, it's tax-free, like crazy what could potentially be waiting for them in their future life.
Exactly. And what better gift to give them than that, plus the education of this is how we did it. And then they pass that along, which I think is the best part, is when you do something like that, that is the ultimate gift, is paying for their future and also showing them this is how you plan for your future. And that peace of mind is the best, both for who you're gifting that to and for yourself, to know that that's taken care of. So whether you're sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so late to the game and I should have done this earlier. I know.
Start anywhere.
Right.
You know what? I literally just signed a client. I am in love with her. She's 72. She's never worked with a financial advisor before. She's 72. I'm so excited to work with her. And to let me speak to that. People, when they're sick, who do they call? They go to the doctor, right? If your car is messed up, you go to the mechanic. So many people have such limiting beliefs around having someone help them with their money. And I'm unclear why this is the case, other than money itself is a taboo topic from the time that we're little. Like, you don't talk about money, and you have these, again, these beliefs that we really need to look at, break down, and rebuild. But I want to encourage people to reach out to financial professionals, whether that's to help you with your taxes, whether that's strategy in your business, and whether that's to talk to someone about, where do I start? What do I do with this old 401k? How can I change the trajectory of my life? There are people that want to work with you, help you, and walk that journey with you. When I work with a client, it's not a one and done. We're on this together. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. I'm on my own financial journey. I've been working my own financial plan. I'm a little bit further ahead than most people because I've had I've been walking that plan, but I can tell you where we're going and walk with and getting there. And if you have that accountability of a financial professional, helping you. People don't get to the Olympics without an awesome coach, right? And I think, why not use your resources and have someone helping you get to the financial Olympics of your retirement, in a faster, more efficient way?
So, and I love that you said that, because we're on the same team. We're here to be part of your
Always.
team. And on that note, I think that this whole conversation has been super empowering, Amy. And I know that, a lot of folks have hesitations about working with certain financial professionals under the assumption that it's going to be like a lecture, or they're going to be disciplined, or it's going to feel, uncomfortable for them. But I think that what you've shown us here in this conversation too, is that there are lots of people out there, and we've had them on this show too. I think you guys all know that I would not bring someone on this show who was going to be like that. But the types of folks that we have who are genuinely passionate about helping you with your money and helping you be successful, there's an abundance of those people out there. So you never have to worry about someone feeling like they're not going to take care of you. And if you feel like that about your professional, you can find another one. There's plenty of people who you will click with, who really do have your best interest in mind and want you to be successful. And I know that Amy agrees and would love to help you. So with that,
That
Amy,
speaks deep to my soul, right?
yes,
Like, I feel like people might not vibe with my energy. Great, find someone. And
oh
I'm
yeah,
never in this scarcity mindset that if someone tells me they're working with someone, that I'm like the highest of freaking vibes, because you know what? Most people aren't. Good for you. Like, there's
Mhm.
a billion people that I can work with. Like, I'm just happy you're working with someone. And the other thing is, it needs to be a freaking hell yeah. If you want to work with someone, you want to work with, talk about your money. And I don't want to work with someone that's not a hell yeah to work with me, right?
Right,
Like, we're a team. We're in this together. I don't want to drag you through the process. Like, that's
right.
not what I'm here for. I'm not here to convince you to do this. I'm here to help you do this and be your teammate on your journey. So
Yeah,
find someone that feels aligned with you, that is sharing a message that resonates with you and that holds your interest in the highest and greatest good. And there's tons of those people out there. And don't feel like you have to say yes to the first person you talk to. There's plenty of people that you're going to know, and inherently trust that you're going to know that they're the professional that you want to work with. And in 5 years, if that isn't still aligning for you, find someone else. We're not signing permanent lifelong contracts. And I tell people that, it's
right.
easy, right? Like, it's easy to change. And where does the magic happen? Outside of our comfort zone. But so often people get stuck in it. Now, listen, I don't ever want a client to leave me. And I have a really good track record. No one has left me, right? I'm trying to serve them in the highest good. But that's
Right.
not to say that if they don't find somebody who aligns better, then I wouldn't encourage them and high five them for making that choice for themselves.
Totally. And so speaking of that, how can folks learn more about you, get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you?
Yes, I love that. So IRC Wealth is the company that I work for, and that website is IRC Wealth. I love Instagram. I'm Amy W. Getz. Getz is my last name. Finance. Amy W. Getz Finance on Instagram. I'm Amy Getz on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Facebook. And send me a DM. Like, let's connect. I think people are so afraid to reach out. I don't bite. I don't charge by the second. Like, don't be a weirdo, but reach out. Let's connect. Let's have a conversation. I love to have conversations with people. And even if you're not an ideal person for me to work with, I can almost assure you that I know someone that you could work with, or I could give you a few steps and pointers to how to get yourself ready to work with someone like me. So let's have a conversation. Right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I have 3 questions I'd love to ask every one of our guests on rapid fire to get to know you a little bit better on the end of the interview. And I dive into those. So number 1, Amy, what is one investment that you can't live without?
So I can pick anything, right? So that would be the person that cleans my house.
Love it.
Like, I've had someone cleaning my house every 2 weeks for like 2 decades. And I honestly love her deep in my soul. And to me, that is an investment, like you said, in convenience. And I like things neat and tidy. And so she absolutely brings me joy. And I'm so grateful for her.
That's up there for me too. That was one of the things that I would probably add to that list.
Yes.
What did you learn about money that turned out not to be true?
In fact, money doesn't grow on trees, but I feel like I look at dividends, interest, capital gains as that literal money tree. So I think it's that yes, money can grow on trees, even though that's what I heard growing up is money doesn't grow on trees. And that I think living in abundance, living in that mindset of abundance and not scarcity is the best place for me. So it's not a pie in the sky because you have more, I have less. So, that.
And what makes you feel like a millionaire?
Freedom. I think for me, it's freedom. It's being able to do what I love. It's being able to take an adventure. It's not for me necessarily about the tangible things. It's about living life and able to have those experiences and lean into what brings me joy. That is what makes me feel like $1,000,000.
Amazing. Couldn't agree
Yeah.
more. And I think we can all relate to that. So I really appreciate your time, Amy, and taking the time
Thank
to
you.
go through this with us and to share all of your wealth of knowledge. I think that plenty of people have so many tidbits that they could walk away with. And if you're out there listening and you have some inherent fears around money, you don't talk about money. This whole conversation is really designed to convince you, de-escalate, and say, we're here for you. We are here to talk about money all day, every day, but not in a way that will make you uncomfortable. We want you to be successful. And the way to do that is to get the help that you need to strategize and to have a plan for your money. And that's what we're so passionate about.
Absolutely. I love that. Like, get excited about your money. Yes. Like, I mean, I don't know why people aren't excited. And I don't care where you are now. That's just that, we don't drive in the rear view mirror. That's why the windshield's so much bigger, right? Like your financial future is so bright.
Love it.
Embrace that. Yeah.
Love it. So with that, Amy, thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again on Keep What You Earn. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.